I want to ask you, the India versus US debate, what do you think is better?
Obviously, the United States is better.
Within like 19 months of starting your company, you sold it to Microsoft for $400 million. $400 million just hit your bank account. What happens?
When you come into that kind of money, you don't know who your friend is. We would have been the WhatsApp of the world. TRAI shut us down because they falsely accused us of doing spamming.
So you're saying that the lawmakers and the decision makers in India are not really open to innovation. Let us look at being successful as the primary goal of life.
That's bogus. That's bogus. That's like emotional mumbo jumbo. What is success? Happiness is success. Money is not success.
What is that amount of money do you think beyond which money doesn't make any difference in your life?
20 million.
20 million. So you're saying that your education at BITS, Caltech and Stanford did not help you make Hotmail.
My partner came up with the idea and he was a dropout of college.
What did you do? Everybody knows you as the erstwhile co-founder of Hotmail, who sold his company for almost $400 million. But I want to know, what is your backstory like? And I want to know it from all the way from the beginning, from your childhood days to today.
I was born in Chandigarh, to a dad who was in the army. He got transferred all over the place. So from Chandigarh, we moved to Pune. And from Pune, then we moved to Bangalore. Went there in 1980 and went to St. Joseph's Boys High School in Bangalore.
Were you like the topper?
I was not the absolute topper. There were a couple of kids who were super smart, but I was in the top 1%, top 2%, pretty much all throughout. So I went to BITS Pilani, which also requires a high kind of cutoff. I told my dad, this is the first step I'm taking in my life. I don't want you to accompany me to Pilani. Let me make it go on my own.
You were about 17 years old.
18 years old. So took a bus to Pilani on my own. And on the bus, there was another kid from Andhra Pradesh. And he was with his dad and he was sobbing incessantly, crying. And his dad was trying to console him. She said, "Excuse me, are you going to Pilani?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to Pilani." "Are you a senior over there?" I said, "No, I'm a freshman." And I was like looking at the scenery and this kid is crying and he looks at his son and says, "What's wrong with you? Look at this guy." So I just loved it that I was independent.
And to get into BITS Pilani, you would have given the JEE mains exam?
No, at that time there was just my scores, my marks in my 12th grade.
So good grades matter?
Grades are important, but they're not a true indication of intelligence.
Of course.
Is the bottom line that I now believe.
So what did you study in BITS?
I studied physics and electrical engineering.
Physics and electrical engineering.
Yeah, dual major.
Got it. And after this, did you straight away get a job or did you go to the States?
No, interesting. After 2 years, I transferred to Caltech.
Oh, it's a 4-year degree, but 2 years later, you just went to Caltech.
Yeah.
Is this something which is very common or something that you figured out?
No. So what happened was my best friend from high school got into MIT.
So he would have written the SATs.
That's right. I wrote SATs as well, and I got into Princeton, Cornell, and University of Miami.
Okay.
But with no financial aid. I said, no, it's better to go to BITS Pilani than
go to Miami.
And so I kept in touch with my friend, and he told me that you can still apply to MIT as a transfer student. And along with MIT, I applied to Caltech as well in the first year. But Caltech sent me the wrong application after the first year. They sent me the graduate application. They were not used to getting undergraduates for their program. The next year, the second year that I was at Pilani, they sent me an application and they said, "We've waived the application fee for you because we sent you the wrong application last year."
Okay.
But that required me to take an actual test in physics, chemistry, and mathematics, a proficiency test.
Set by Caltech.
Set by Caltech. And I guess I did well in those 3 tests. In fact, in the mathematics, I was told after I went to Caltech that I was the only one in the world who passed that exam.
Wow.
and I got a 62, and that the next highest was a 42.
Okay.
It was that difficult that Caltech gave me a full scholarship to come and study at Caltech.
Oh, you
as an
went for
undergrad.
free?
I went for free.
Okay. Okay.
my all my education has been free, actually. From Caltech, I went to Stanford. Stanford too.
Immediately after Caltech, you went to Stanford?
I did, yeah.
I went to the campus recently.
Yeah.
Beautiful campus. I'm like, I want to study again. It is that good.
I live right behind the campus, actually.
Okay.
Right now.
I think the oldest Apple store is also right there in Stanford. When I went outside of Stanford, there was this lane where all the Stanford students are like,
Palo Alto. That is Palo Alto.
Right.
Yeah. That's my backyard. I live right there.
Got it.
In the hills.
Okay. So you went to Stanford. What did you study at Stanford?
Stanford also electrical engineering.
That would be like a master's degree.
Masters. Bachelor's and masters.
Okay.
Stanford was the first time I got B's in my life.
Okay.
And that was because, my God, I mean, the competition was just insane. Yeah.
So what do you think is the reason why a Stanford is a Stanford, but an IIT is only known in India?
Aside from the branding, it's the quality of the teaching and the professors.
Okay.
First of all, you are
So you're
learning,
saying that the US professors in Stanford are better than the Indian professors in IIT?
because they're more aware of what is going on in industry.
Okay.
Stanford is a very industry-oriented school. Many of the people who teach are professors, are actually work in these companies.
Got it.
And they come and teach you. So you learn the latest stuff when it comes to, say, VLSI design or to computer architecture. And that's what makes Stanford so much better. I mean, a lot of professors from IIT are great. Some of them have done their PhDs outside. But the problem is they're not in touch with the latest developments in industry. And the students also themselves, many have started companies on their own. And as a result, there is an ecosystem of, cool things happening, and you're completely aware of what is going on.
So Sabeer, so far what I've learned is that academics has been one of the biggest driver of your success so far in getting into all the world-class universities. But just earlier, you also mentioned that you don't believe in, academic grades as the only driver of success. Although your own personal story has been, driven by academic success. So why do you say that? Like, what other pathways do you think are available for the youngsters today, specifically in India, to reach the kind of success that you have reached?
So the reason I say that is twofold. One is it's been a driver where it has opened opportunities for me, but I haven't used any of the learnings. What I actually learned at Caltech or Stanford, I have never used in my life.
Really?
I had to, learn everything from. It was, even had I not had all of that, I could have done the same thing.
But you still got a good job, right? Like, what was your first job out of Stanford?
Apple computer.
So getting into Apple is not easy, right? You need to come from a good college.
Yeah.
So from that regard, don't you say academics is still important?
It is important, but it is not important in today's day and age.
Can you elaborate?
I'll tell you why. I mean, one is there has been a proliferation and availability of information, thanks to YouTube, thanks to ChatGPT,
right?
Thanks to everything that is available on the internet, Coursera, Works. Knowledge is available for free.
Yeah.
And especially in the age of AI, the traditional systems of education are becoming more and more irrelevant.
And when you mean traditional, you're also referring to colleges like Caltech and Stanford.
Yes, okay. Including those.
So you're saying that your education at BITS, Caltech, and Stanford did not help you make Hotmail?
My partner came up with the idea, and he was a dropout of college.
Okay. And what did you do?
I helped build the business. I marketed the idea. I sold the idea to venture capitalists. So the story of how Hotmail got started is actually I came up with an idea to do a personal web-based database on the internet. And I wrote a small business plan for it. And I recruited my partner, Jack Smith, who was a star programmer.
So you didn't do the coding?
I didn't do the coding.
You're like the visionary.
I am like the visionary, the marketer, the salesman,
The business guy.
The business guy. And both of us worked at a company at that time called Firepower Systems. The company put a firewall around the corporate intranet,
Okay.
which prevented us from accessing our personal email accounts.
Okay.
I had one at stanford.edu, and he had one at AOL.com in those days. That's when the idea occurred to him. When he was driving to his home in Livermore, he called me and said, I have a phenomenal idea. This will solve our problem of not being able to access our personal emails. And he says, the idea is we'll make email available on the web. That'll solve the problem. And that was the genesis of Hotmail. It wasn't so much the free aspect. It was more that email now, by virtue of being available on the web, could be accessed from any web-connected computer in the world.
Got it.
And it was also, it turned out, now in an era of cloud computing, one of the first cloud-based applications in the world.
What you guys did.
Yeah.
And I also read that within like 18 months or 19 months of starting your company, you sold it to Microsoft for $400 million. What I'm interested to know about is the lessons of negotiation. And negotiation is so important in today's world, not just in selling your company, but also in as simple as, negotiating a good salary or maybe climbing up the corporate ladder, right? People don't know how to talk to negotiate for themselves. As someone who has sold your company for $400 million to Bill Gates, what are your golden piece of advice for negotiating well for your personal benefit?
First step of negotiation is put yourself in the shoes of the person you're negotiating with. The moment you try to make it adversarial, like you say the price of this is 9, but I say it's 11, you will lose the negotiation. Always. First rule is, what does the person you're negotiating with want from, and how can my work or my company's work add or benefit that company?
Basically aligning my request with your incentives. What is your incentive? Understanding that first, and then try to negotiate.
And just keep for a moment, especially in the high-tech world, keep the dollar value out of it. Can 1 + 1 make more than 2? Which is, as a small company, Hotmail, if we merge with Microsoft, can our combined vision be greater? Can Microsoft offer more distribution to us? And obviously, Microsoft has a hole in what they're doing. So can we fill that and make them more successful? As opposed to never try to reach a point or a way of thinking where it becomes adversarial. Treat the person you're negotiating with as a friend, not as a business adversary.
What else?
Number 2, have no ego.
Okay.
Don't ever say something where you think you are the better, you are outsmarting. No, go in with utmost humility. You will always arrive at the right answer when you approach every negotiation with humility.
Got it.
And 3, make sure that the relationship is not a transactional relationship. It is a long-term relationship. It's a long-term marriage. That's one thing I find incredibly wrong with people who negotiate in India. If there is a certain this thing, they try to take the whole thing, the whole pie. I mean,
people in India.
Yeah. And I think that's wrong.
Can you give an example of what you've seen in India?
Every deal in India seems to be, people seem to be very happy if they get a one-sided deal.
Right.
They think they have outsmarted the other one, but they have not. They have actually killed both the prospects. There is so much more that you can get when two go in with full partnership to say, hey, it's not just 50-50. Let's make it 500.
Right. Like one piece of advice that I received from a very senior person is that both of y'all think that, what you're saying is fair. What you might think is fair is what I'll think is unfair. So the best way to negotiate is to actually make the other person feel like they've gotten a better end of the deal. Like, let's say instead of making it 50-50, you have to accept yourself that I'm getting 40 and that person is getting 60. And when you do that, the other person is so, happy and overjoyed that the relationship becomes so strong and long lasting that the combined value gets synergized.
That's bogus. That's like emotional mumbo jumbo.
No. But how do you always ensure 50-50 then? Because what you think 50-50 and what I think 50-50 is very different.
No, it's not. If there is, then don't do the deal. Both of you have to aim towards a better outcome. And the better outcome means your relationship that you're forming is more important than the financial outcome.
Okay, so you're saying don't look at the numbers, look at the relationship aspect.
The relationship. If somebody's trying to get the better of you, don't do that deal. That's a wrong deal. And I've seen it over and over again. In the US, the first thing people do is try to find out who you are as a person. More important than business is person. Can I go out drinking with such a person? Can I make a long-term relationship with such a person? Every deal is done that way. And there is so much integrity and honor. Nobody goes and shops deals around like, we'll go and shop 10 times. No. Don't ever think the other person is stupid. Information will become available. Be absolutely over-honest about what you're representing.
Got it. So all of this put together, you cracked a $400 million deal. Now I want you to go back to 1999 and $400 million just hit your bank account. What happens?
At first you go a little crazy.
What is crazy?
For a year, you think you can buy anything you want to, and you go and buy a whole bunch of toys and you have some fun,
Can you elaborate?
I bought an apartment. I bought a few cars, traveled the world. I mean, I didn't care about, money because I didn't start any financial planning or whatever.
So what exactly did you do when you got the money? Like, how much money did you exactly get from that deal?
I got plenty. I mean, but Jack and I had about 50% of the amount.
Right. So how does that feel when you get that kind of money?
It feels great. Your parents don't believe you because they're like, we've been living a salaried life all our life. And how come, is this for real? They would call their friends over there and say, is this for real? Or is this guy on something? But it's, how does it feel? You just, for some time, like I said, you are walking on cloud 9, but then part of the story is also you have to step out of cloud 9 too.
How long does that high last? Because most people think having that kind of money solves all problems of life. Do you have any more problems in life once you get that kind of money?
Of course you have problems in life. Everybody has problems. What you realize is the real problems are not just monetary. In fact, when you are poor, you have very healthy relationship with people like your family, your friends. When you come into that kind of money, you don't know who your friend is and who your true friend is. Everybody has a motive. Everybody looks at you like Mr. Moneybags, not as a friend. And that is a very dangerous place to be. You think that it solves all the problems. In fact, it brings on a host of other problems. You have to develop a great sense of instinct to know who is real and who is not, who's fake.
Can you tell me that? That's a very good skill to have. How do you know who is real and who is fake?
Instinct. You have to look into somebody's eyes. Some subconscious instinct tells you who they are. So
it's true what they say, the eyes don't lie.
That's very true. Yeah. Now I will reveal something that I'm working on that very much corroborates this point of view, that software has proven that rapid eye movements can predict if you're telling the truth or lying.
Your eyes are like very still. You don't move a lot.
I don't know. You decide for yourself.
Piercing eyes. So you mentioned that money doesn't solve any problems, but definitely it takes you to a certain level of comfort. What is that amount of money do you think beyond which money doesn't make any difference in your life?
20 million.
20 million. You're talking in terms of India standards or global standards?
Global standards.
So that's about 160 crores. But why, can you like explain why is it 20 million?
You buy a house, you buy your fancy toys that you want, or a couple of cars. You make sure there's enough money for, if you're married, kids, their education. And then you have to find a different purpose in life. It cannot be making more money. That leads to unhappiness. I look for good, solid friendships and good, healthy relationships.
Right.
Life is a set of experiences. I now am living for experiences. I'm not living to make more money.
Like how do you plan those things?
I don't plan. It just happens. I take one day at a time. And if I learn something new during the day, I find it as a successful day. Like I said, I'm not waiting for any financial outcome anymore.
According to you, what does the future look like where there are opportunities to be, exploited, where I can make a lot of money or, great experiences?
This whole area of AI and what you can do with AI that can solve some problem and that can make humanity better. And I was like, this is amazing. What can we do with AI? Not just doing whatever ChatGPT and answering a few letters or writing stuff. I started playing around and I used AI to create all these videos on entrepreneurship. And then I used and modified by doing the right kind of prompt engineering to test people and their intelligence, their creativity, their out-of-box thinking.
By using what is the input? The video
using
resume?
Their video responses. So what I do is I interview them in the form of a verbal interview like this, but I'm digitized. My questions are digitized.
Okay, you are an AI.
I am an AI, but I just record myself. I'm real. I just record myself, but it's a Zoom-like interview.
Okay.
Where they're asked for their responses.
Okay.
And based on their responses and their pauses and how they do it and their facial movements, AI can tell one if they are recounting from memory or if their ideas are original. And then it tests those ideas and it says, it comes back with a response on originality, out of box thinking, creativity. That is true intelligence. And I'm saying that in the next few years, when companies will hire, they will no longer look at where you got a degree from, because they're not looking for those skills anymore. That's why they're laying off people the world over.
Yeah.
They will be looking for these creative individuals. The problem with the entire system of Indian education is rigged. People don't study to learn. People study to get to ace an exam. I'm like, you've learned nothing. And I was part of that too. I mean, I should be accused of what I'm saying, but I'm admitting it. That I went through high school studying this history of Panipat, this thing, that thing, memorized every damn date and regurgitated. Do I remember any of it? No. So what use is that education? But if somebody asks me, imagine yourself in that battle. What strategy did the two sides use? Why did one side win versus the other? Now that is critical thinking. That is interesting way of looking at the same thing.
Right.
And I'm saying that those skills will be required, are very much in demand. People who can imagine a future, who are artistic in nature, those people will be required more than programmers. In our time, if you could do coding, you get a job. C, C++, Python, XYZ, whatever. All that computers will do. Today, somebody will say, hey, what if I could create an app that did this, that solved this problem, or that made the world interesting? Those ideas come from creative people, artists who can imagine things and draw them, not from people who can just repeat and regurgitate.
But do you think this particular skill set of, creative thinking or strategic thinking, do you think that is something that you're born with or something that can be developed?
First of all, some people are naturally gifted with it. No question.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, we can become more creative by just being more aware of what is going on in the environment. Just being aware of everything. being open to all kinds of possibilities. I see it in my 9-year-old kid. We go skiing and he's like, Papa, you have a hard time turning these skis. What if we made electric skis? Okay. That's an interesting idea. That is what is required for true innovation. And especially in a country like India, where its greatest asset today is its intellectual capital. It has to be channeled correctly, though. We kill it when we only say you are smart because you can regurgitate all the answers and you get 10 out of 10. And that other kid who's dyslexic but who imagines things in class, who gets only a 4, that guy's an idiot. No. That's the mistake we are making as a society, as a culture, as a country.
Yep. Yeah, I think even if I look at my classroom, if I look at all the students that I studied with, the backbenchers of the people who used to bully and rag and, the miscreants, I'm seeing them also becoming successful. And they were always thinking out of the box. They always liked to be the rebels because they didn't want to conform to a particular system. And even today, they are successful.
I also will challenge you on when you use the word successful. Only Indians use this word successful, meaning
when
your
I mean
financial.
Money, yeah.
All my friends who are non-Indian do not think success is money. 100 out of 100 say success is when they have found their true calling in life. If they are piano teachers, that they can play the piano all day long and teach kids, they find that to be successful. If they are sportsmen, if they are participating in sports in any form, either playing it or being part of a baseball team, it's never money. All these wonderful people are so happy in their lives because they do what they like doing. Perhaps your calling in life is to do a podcast like this to get into people's minds. That has got nothing to do with what you studied.
Yeah.
And it is, and because our societies are evolving where, obviously the internet and social media are an essential component of our lives, finding that niche that makes you happy is more important. And our parents are to blame for this. Use the word success. What is success? Happiness is success. Money is not success. But we live in a have-not society, an aspirational society. We have to show to the other people we have more than them, and we think that is success.
So let us look at being successful as the primary goal of life. And for the people who are watching this podcast, mostly people are in their mid-20s or late 20s. And US is always looked at as this golden opportunity where you can completely turn around your life and be successful. So according to you, I want to ask you, the India versus US debate in 2024, what do you think is better?
Obviously, the United States is better.
For an Indian?
For anyone.
Okay.
They don't see me as an Indian. I've never felt I'm different. I just have to be creative, smart, and honest, true. And if I got a good idea, I got a good idea. It doesn't matter where I come from, who I am. There is no differentiation. There is no racism. There is no classism, nothing. It's in the heads of us Indians. We think that they think of us different. No. I'm married to an American. And I have, my family is all American, and never, not once. It's the freedom of ideas. My son can say whatever. I want to be a YouTuber. Next day, I want to make an electric ski. It's the freedom to think. That freedom to think leads to innovation. We have to give that same freedom to think to people over here. 99% say they can't do it because they've got no money. What does money have to do with a good idea? First, come up with a good idea. Don't worry about the money. Money should chase good ideas, not the other way around.
But that's a little difficult to understand, right? Because just having a good idea, I still need to put food on the table in India. Like, how can I just think of good ideas if there's no money?
I'm not saying all the companies that I've seen that were successful, people just reduced their expenses and just worked on the idea for a long time before they got funding and got successful. So they took a risk. But it wasn't a risk as much as it's a lost opportunity. They're like, no, we are pursuing our idea. And instead of spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, we are spending only $100, $1,000 a month or $700 a month. And you got to have some basic. Now, you can't say that you'll go out and build the next great thing because one day after you're begging on the streets. That, of course, not. You got to have some core ability to just sustain yourself. But you should not put an undue pressure that you have to earn certain amount. It's a different way of thinking. You're willing to risk a cushy life for the idea only because you believe in it so much. That's what I really meant.
Because you think it's going to be a true calling in life.
You think it's going to be a true calling, or you think it will really solve a fundamental problem.
So most people in India don't even try.
Don't even try because they give up even before trying. Even the language is, I'm sorry to say, very negative.
What do you mean language is negative?
When I ask some of my friends and tell them an idea that is completely out of, no, that will not work because of this legal, that legal. I mean, where does legal have to do with first? I haven't even flushed out the whole idea. Let's first spend all of our time, energy, effort flushing out the idea before we go into legal aspects. I will argue with you that every company that is now worth hundreds of billions, possibly trillions of dollars, broke every legal law that existed in that place.
Uber is an example.
Uber is an example. Other, Stripe. Right? Over here, it's like, the problem is laws exist in the US or in the West, I should say. Laws are implemented based on the spirit of the law. In India, we seem to be sticking to the letter of the law, which is that just kills innovation.
Yeah.
Because every innovation skirtles, it tests regulation. I'll give you the Hotmail idea. We would have if I had started Hotmail in India, we would have violated the Telegraph Act of 1886.
Okay.
Where you need a license to send a message from point A to point B to person A to person B. Now, some, fantastic government person will say, you know what, that's just the law says. You are breaking the law. Like, we are innovating. Where are we breaking the law? It happened to me, right? I told you in like another company that I had, Jackster SMS, we would have been the WhatsApp of the world. TRAI shut us down because they falsely accused us of doing spamming. It all emanates from overzealousness to implement so-called the law because that's what the law says.
So you're saying that the lawmakers and the decision makers in India are not really open to innovation. They put a lot of friction on
We
innovators.
have to first, as a society, accept innovation, accept new ways of doing things. I am very glad and thrilled that you're creating such a fantastic channel on the internet just because there are no 10,000 laws telling you can do this, you can do that, you cannot do that, you cannot do that.
They're starting to.
They'll kill this wonderful, whole new industry that you've taken upon yourself. I mean, and you're creating from scratch.
Right.
That is innovation. That is, testing the boundaries, the limits of what is possible. And it's that freedom to think. The Bay Area happens to be such a wonderful place to live just because there is such a diversity of opinion, of ethnicities. There are people from Korea, from China, from every state of India.
Yeah, I've been there. It's beautiful. Yeah.
You can get any kind of cuisine, Vietnamese, Thai, this, that, and people accept that. They embrace it. They encourage it.
Yeah, that's the one. Like, I traveled to the US recently. I was there for 22 days. The Bay Area is the only place in the United States where I felt like I was at home. I didn't feel like I missed India because, like you said, it is such a diverse culture over there. You get good Indian food as well. The weather is like Bangalore weather. I didn't feel like I missed India.
New York is also another place, I think, which is quite diverse.
Yeah.
Quite open, accepting. And it's this freedom of thought that leads to innovation because you don't know when the next great idea where it will come from. And a structured, regimented education, you must study this, then you have to do this, then you have to do this, does not lead to innovation. Because you're already subjecting yourself to structure.
So let's say I'm a 25-year-old today living in India. How according to you, should I chart out the next 10 years of my life to become successful?
You have to ask yourself that question. I mean, I can't answer a question for somebody else. I can't say become a chartered accountant or become, an engineer or become a doctor. You have to find out from first principles, what is it that you like doing? There has to be some basic starting point. First question is, what do you like? I can't answer what somebody likes, right? Then you have to be creative enough to create opportunities around what you like. And the good thing is all of society, the world over, is evolving where they are beginning to find what they like. I'll give you an example. I knew these two people who were VPs in very successful engineering companies. And the two of them loved working with children. I mean, it was too late for them to go and get a teaching job and, start retraining themselves to be teachers. So what did they do? They opened a small studio where they teach kids how to cook.
Okay.
And they created a birthday package around it where parents can go and buy a package for 30 kids to teach 30 kids on their birthday how to cook. All the kids have a great time. They go home, tell their friends, I had my birthday party at this place. So that's an example of how you can be creative and change your passion into a profession, right?
So this is one way.
One way.
Got it.
Two is, let's say you are doing engineering. Maybe what you really like is becoming a doctor. I don't know. Or maybe it's something else. It's all about specialization today also. It's not, instead of being generic, everything is becoming super specialized. So within a profession, within an industry, find that specialization, find that niche that really appeals to you. And maybe India has not reached that point where people are willing to pay for services, but the US, people know that for services. I have another friend who has become a personal shopper.
Okay.
She has an expertise in shopping. She worked at a high-tech company. She kicked that and she says, I have got plenty of clients who pay me money to shop for them. Because she keeps abreast with the latest designs and, showcases these to the super wealthy people who are like, yeah, I love that and I'll pay you to dress me up based on my body style, this and that. So like I said, there is no one answer. When you say how, first you've got to ask yourself what will make you happy. And then think for yourself, can you create a profession around it that doesn't exist today? A full profession. And then like I said, we are living in an era of super specialization. So find what is going on. You may be good at, for example, interior design. Maybe you specialize in creating podcasting studios as an example. Right? Because that is the future. That is an area of growth. And I mean, this has also been the case in the field of engineering itself. I have seen myself when I was designing chips for Apple. We had this one guy, Kumar. He was so good at just creating software versions of processors. That's it. That was his specialization. 10 companies would pay him $300 an hour. That's $600,000 just to create processors. And he got good at just that.
So you believe that being good at just one thing is more important than being a generalist?
Absolutely. 110%.
But with that specialized skill, I also need to have some other skills as well, right? To pitch myself and to be successful. Like, what are those other skills? Let's say, for example, I pick this one specialization that I'm really good at. Let's say it is, writing software. Along with this, what are those other skill sets that a person should have to again become successful?
You have to have basic marketing skills. You have to sell yourself.
That's not taught to us in schools.
That is the problem. It's taught to every kid. My kid is selling himself to me every day.
How did he learn it?
It's the environment.
So marketing and selling, know how to do that. Anything else?
Social skills, I think, are very important.
Right.
Today, in all my experiences, I have found that no idea comes from an individual. It's always collectively in a group of at least 3 or 4 or 5 people. So being able to have an emotional quotient and connection and being able to emotionally work with 4 or 5 people is not easy. That is very critical.
That's very interesting. You're saying I cannot individually come up with a great idea. It has to be at least 3 to 4 people.
EQ is better than IQ. EQ is not taught at all. I'm saying, in fact, our system prevents EQ, where people don't help each other.
Right.
One reason why US is so great is everybody's always helping each other.
Yeah, it feels weird. Like everybody's helping me. They're opening the door, holding the door open for me. I'm like, why are they so nice to me?
It's the culture. And that culture leads to, and it stems from the basic belief that true happiness comes from making someone else happy. It's just a difference in the way of thinking. If we can somehow spread that way of thinking, India will be a freaking superpower in no time at all. Rather than subconsciously trying to pull somebody down, see that by helping the other person is my ultimate happiness. That a rising tide lifts all boats. So if one amongst us has an idea, support that idea.
Yeah.
Let that person lift everyone else.
I think you're bang on. India loves doing that. It's so common to see people being pulled down. Everybody loves to pull people down who are successful and have made it. One small mistake that they've made, there are millions of people to jump on it, criticize it, and bring them down.
We should change that. That, if we can teach them, listen, it is in your interest for that person to succeed, because one, you'll either learn how to succeed like that person, or that person will create more employment, more jobs, more goodwill, that it will lift all boats.
Even people who are so much loved in this country, like for example, there's a cricketer called KL Rahul, and then even Virat Kohli for that matter. Like when they're not performing well, we like to pull them down, criticize them. I don't know why we do that, and we change our opinion.
Insecurity. It stems from insecurity. Yeah. When you're secure and happy in yourself, you want to spread that happy. You want other people to be happy. And like I said, we are built in with that mechanism that true happiness comes when you see someone else happy.
Yeah.
I felt that subconsciously in the Indian community in the US. And everybody just subconsciously wants to see me succeed. And it's a completely different ecosystem. I'm like, that is the ecosystem we want to replicate here. That help each other. Don't pull anybody down.
Yeah.
And if everybody starts helping each other, oh my God. Waiting to be a superpower.
Yeah, that's how a healthy society is formed.
Yeah.
Cool. Sabeer, I think let's end on that note.
Okay.
True happiness comes from seeing other people happy.
Yes.
I think that's my quote of the day.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Sabeer, for spending so much time with us and sharing the wealth of wisdom that you have. And I truly enjoyed this. I hope the audience also will be able to derive a lot of value from listening to this conversation. Thank you so much once again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.